What is going on, Reds fans, and what's going on, baseball fans? Thanks for finding the Locked On Reds podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Carr. Today, we're going to talk about the Reds' fifth straight win, talk about what went on, what led to it, and I've got some thoughts about streaks, injuries, and a look at tonight's pitching matchup between the Reds and Royals. Thanks again for joining me today. Let's get into it, but first, let's play the graphic.
It's the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
You are Locked On Reds, your daily Cincinnati Reds podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What is going on? We've got so much to talk about here, and today we got a packed Locked On Reds podcast. Thanks for finding us. If you aren't subscribed to the YouTube channel, make sure you do so. That way you don't miss anything that I've got for you all season long. Also, if you're listening on an audio app, make sure you're following me on that app, whether it's the Apple Podcast, which, by the way, if you've noticed a issue with the Apple Podcast updating, that's been an ongoing thing for a little while now. I recommend switching over to a different app, maybe the Odyssey app, Audacy, or you can check out Spotify, there's Stitcher, all kinds of different options you can look at just in case Apple is not updating, because we've had problems with that. Also, make sure that you're following me on Twitter at Jeff Carr with 3 F's, and follow the show at Locked On Reds, and save the Locked On Reds line number into your phone for comments, questions, reactions, whatever you've got. 513-549-0159. We'll get to those throughout the week. All right, let's talk about this game. The Reds win their 5th in a row, and in another comeback variety 5th in a row of that kind as well. First time since 1995 that they've had 5 straight comeback wins, and it all happened in the 7th. The Reds were down by 1 with the clutch man himself, Nick Castellanos, at the plate, and he hit a deep drive to left center field. That was kind of interesting, the timing of that. The Royals broadcast was doing a eulogy for a guy. It was a very touching tribute, and then all of a sudden Castellanos hits a deep drive to left center field. And there was a Twitter account, and I'm blanking on the name right now. I saw it earlier, but they juxtaposed the Tom Brenneman apology and this eulogy that both ended in Nick Castellanos with a deep drive to left center. So maybe we just need more dramatic moments at Kauffman Stadium or something to get Nick Castellanos a home run. But hey, he has had plenty of those this year. The Reds have had plenty of great moments from him, and he really got that inning going. Then a couple more guys got on base, and Eugenio Suarez just blasted a home run over the left field wall. I mean, that almost looked like it was going to leave the stadium. Hanging slider, just spinning in the middle of the zone, and he got every part of that baseball. That was absolutely crushed with a capital K. And hey, Tyler Naquin, great insurance at bat in the top of the 9th, really able to go the other way. It was an impressive work of an at bat. You know, you see too many guys that want to just pull every single pitch that they got. He took exactly what the pitcher gave him. Nice little line drive poke down the left field line that scores the Reds' 6th run. And hey, great pitching. Goody was Gucci again. He pitched 6 very solid innings, 2 earned runs, 6 strikeouts, couple of walks, couple of hits. Fantastic day for Goody. He is settling in nicely. And I love the fact that Bally, on the television broadcast, John Sadek and Jeff Brantley were talking about the fact that if you just take away his performances against the Padres, he actually has an amazing season. It's just that one team, the wonderful San Diego Padres, had his number. He allowed 11 earned runs in 2 starts against them. He's allowed 10 earned runs in every other start. So I still love the fact that he's in this rotation. I don't foresee that being an issue moving forward. Not somebody that we're talking about. With the injury report coming up here in just a minute, I'll talk about who is on the hot seat. And actually, a couple of guys who are on the hot seat did pitch last night. Josh Osich, Sean Doolittle, and Kyle Hendricks, probably not as hot of a seat as those two guys, but with injuries coming back, you figure they would be high up on the list to for the Reds to move on from them. We'll have to see how that all goes, though, because they actually pitched okay. Now, Doolittle did allow some base runners, but he didn't allow any runs to score. And while we love our bullpen guys to come in and pitch perfect innings and not worry about any base runners and never pitch from the stretch, that is impossible because we're talking about baseball, and baseball's not played on paper. And the bullpen, despite having the B guys, as I would say, I mean, Hendricks is pretty decent, and he's really going to be an up-and-coming dude for this bullpen, and I love what he brings to the table. But right now, he's not in that upper echelon of the Reds bullpen. However, 3 scoreless innings from them again. They're just shutting people down. It's good to see. And the Reds get their 5th win in a row. And it was a great night for a win, too, because the Brewers lost and the Cubs lost again. Cubs just got destroyed at Wrigley by the Phillies. That was a game. 6 runs in the 8th inning for the Phillies. Or no, 6 runs in the 9th inning for the Phillies. Just phenomenal game for them. And the fact that the Brewers lost again is awesome. Now the Reds are only 6 games out of first place, 2 more against Kansas City, and then they go to Milwaukee, which could be huge heading in to the All-Star break. Let's not get too far ahead of ourselves. There's still 2 more in Kansas City. We'll talk about game 2 coming up here in just a minute, and we've got some thoughts on streaks and injuries and things like that. Before we get into that, though, I wanted to let you know that if you need a part for your car, the best place to go is rockauto.com. They've got all the parts that your car will ever need, and they will deliver it right to your door. There's no driving down to the store, worrying about if they've got your part in stock, worrying about if you're going to get upcharged, because Rock Auto has reliably low prices, whether you're a professional mechanic or you're just a dude who's trying to restore a classic car, or maybe you're just trying to find a turn signal for your daily driver. They've got it all at rockauto.com, and it's easy to use, easy to find exactly what you need. If you go to their website, on the left side, they've got this drop down list, and they have every single make and model, and you'll find a drop down list of your parts for your car. Go to rockauto.com today, and in the checkout section, in the how'd you hear about us area, type in Locked On to let them know that your pal Jeff from the Locked On Reds podcast sent you. That's rockauto.com, and the promo code Locked On to let them know that we sent you. rockauto.com has all of the parts that your car will ever need. All right, so we have some streaks to talk about, because this is now a 5-game win streak, and hopefully they win tonight and get that 6th game. That would be amazing. But like I mentioned earlier on, 5 games in a row with a comeback win, first time since 1995. We're getting a lot of these comparisons, things that the Reds are now doing, that you say, well, this is the first time since 2012, or this is the first time since 1995, or something like that. Like whenever they swept the Cubs, it was the first time in the third time in franchise history that it happened, first time since 2012, and the only other 2 times are 2012 and 1995. Good years to compare a Reds team to. So it's another thing to add to that list. And in fact, and this might be putting the cart before the horse, but if Luis Castillo and the Reds do beat Kris Bubic and the Royals tonight, then that'll be their 6th win in a row. It'll be the first time having 3 different win streaks of 6 wins or more since 2012. Again, just going back to those years. Always good to see. It's just been timely hitting. I mean, you look at each and every one of these comeback wins, they've gotten exactly what they needed, exactly when they've needed it. Dare I say, the word that everybody overuses in the sports universe, clutch. Yeah, I know. I just whisper that. I'm just going to whisper that for right now. But I love what this lineup has done, and the bullpen doing its job. Everything has come together and just coalesced. It's a big word for a baseball podcast, but has come together for a really good performance from this team. 5 nights in a row. Let's see if they can get it done tonight for the 6th time. And it'll be interesting to see if Jonathan India plays. He was in last night's starting lineup, but was scratched late with a sore ankle. That was the official designation, so we don't have to worry about medical terms or anything like that. I can pretty much figure out what a sore ankle is, and you can figure out where it came from on that crazy play at second base against the Cubs in the final game where Javier Baez was trying to slide in safe, and India blocked second base, and he really got hit hard by Baez's slide in his right ankle. So, I mean, he finished that game, and the fact that he was in the starting rotation or starting lineup to begin Monday, not before the game, but they had him penciled in, makes me think that this isn't that big of a deal. Maybe he misses tonight and then comes back for the series finale. But let's be honest, the Royals are the kind of team that are going through the kind of stretch that, with the Reds being as good as they've been here lately, you could afford to rest a guy who, if you set him down now, you might avoid a bigger injury. And we do not want to see Jonathan India on the IL for a very long time because he has been super valuable out of that leadoff spot and playing second base for the Reds. Alejo Lopez stepped in, and I mean, he's still working his way through the major leagues and trying to get his feet wet, get going. Hopefully he can do that here soon, but it was nice to see him at least get the opportunity to step in. So maybe India comes back. That's really the brightest outlook on the injury report. Mark Sheldon has this comprehensive look giving you the dates that each player has been updated over at MLB.com if you want to go check that out. Just kind of taking a look at the list. It's interesting to note that Moose has still yet to do any baseball activities whatsoever since being shut down June 15th. According to Mark Sheldon's report, they still say that he's dealing with pain in that heel, which was the reason that this whole thing started. And the fact that he's still dealing with pain makes me wonder if even the end of July is optimistic, because that's currently what they're slating his return to be. And with that being said, another guy that I'm wondering about is Nick Senzel. He's been a guy who they're saying, well, okay, maybe after the All-Star break. Well, now maybe it's the end of July. When are we going to see Senzel and Moose back in this lineup? It's almost a wonder at this point if it's going to be by the end of July. Hopefully sometime close to that, maybe early August or something like that. But when you look at these two injuries, the one for Moose has just been so nagging and lingering that you wonder what it is he has to do to get over it. He was actually on a rehab stint with Louisville whenever it got re-aggravated. And when you read about, injuries to the plantar fascia and things like that, a lot of it just says you have to stay off of it. You have to not do anything. You have to kind of wait it out, really. I mean, unless there's some kind of surgery involved, but I don't even know if surgery can help at this point with something like that. It's just something that has to heal on its own. And injuries like that, when it comes to professional sports and it comes to fans, like, ooh, when are we getting them back? That's annoying because we don't know. It's going to be a while. Then you look at Michael Lorenzen, very positive reports. He's moving on through his rehab stint through the minor leagues. They expect him to be back July 10th. They're thinking maybe even right there out of the All-Star break. And that is amazing news to see that we get him back in the bullpen rotation. Hopefully get him up to speed very quickly, and he will be a weapon for the Reds in the late innings, something that they need. I don't think that they're looking at him as a rotation piece anymore, which is kind of a bummer because we know coming into the year he was super excited about that, but I think that's kind of out the window now, especially with bullpen, as well as it has been here lately. We all know, and I say this all the time, relief pitching is a very fickle thing. So the more you got, the better off you are. And having Michael Lorenzen and having a good Michael Lorenzen in the backside of this bullpen would be phenomenal. You've also got another guy who can add some talent to this bullpen coming back soon, and that's Jeff Hoffman. Now, Mark Sheldon lists his return date as TBD, but he is currently on a rehab stint. I think that's basically saying it's probably going to be sooner rather than later. We might see him before the All-Star break. and that could be huge. One guy that I totally forgot about, and you might have forgot about him too, Michael Feliz. Remember him? The Reds got him off waivers from the Pirates, and he had some nice stats when it came to ERA and things like that, but he's kind of had a few rough outings before he went on the injured list for the Reds. Yeah, he's progressing through a rehab stand, and should be back maybe shortly after the All-Star break is over, is what Mark Sheldon was talking about. So, and I wonder too, it's almost a question, maybe he replaces Ryan Hendricks or somebody like that, but how does Feliz fit into this bullpen that has really started to grow that momentum, really started to get a hold of what it is they can do? I don't think you're replacing Heath Hembree at this point. I know that Heath Hembree isn't the most reliable of relievers, but he has shown that he's got some great stuff and he can really strike guys out when he needs to. You're definitely not replacing Brad Brock, who has been phenomenal. And I don't necessarily know that you want to bring Feliz in and get rid of a lefty. Maybe Sean Doolittle, although he did get some outs yesterday, which was nice to see. But that really throws an interesting wrench into the idea of what this bullpen is. Do you want to mess up the chemistry that they have right now? Or do you say, I think we're getting back a better talented right-handed arm in Feliz than some of the guys that maybe have been outperforming their level of play here recently? It's an interesting thought for David Bell and for Nick Krall to figure out, but they're all coming back soon. And then, of course, you see TJ Anto and Lucas Sims. There's been lots of updates on them here recently. Lucas Sims not yet getting back to doing stuff yet, and Antone as well, but they're both slated for a return sometime late July. And I mean, you're talking about a bullpen that has the talent of what Antone and Sims brought to the table early on this season. You add Lorenzen, you add Hoffman as the long man. Maybe you get the better version of Michael Feliz back. Then we're in business. And I'm not saying that that's a reason for the Reds to not go out and trade for a bullpen arm, because they could use another arm, one or two. Everybody could. But I love the fact that we're seeing these guys coming back here soon. All right, coming up in just a minute, I want to break down tonight's pitching performance between La Piedra, Luis Castillo, and Kris Bubic. Before we get into that, though, I wanted to let you know that you can still set up your profile at betonline.ag and enter the promo code LOCKEDON to get 50% added onto your initial deposit. BetOnline.ag is the only online sportsbook that I trust, and you should too. They've got great lines when it comes to Major League Baseball, the NBA playoffs with the finals getting going, the NHL, they've got NFL as that gets going. They've got plenty of futures up for NFL right now if you want to take a look at win totals and things like that. Plus, they've got MMA, boxing, reality TV. They've got award shows, all that kind of good stuff is over at betonline.ag. Go there, set up your profile today, and type in the promo code LOCKED ON to get 50% added onto your initial deposit. Plus, you can also check out some tips that I'll give you from time to time. Not feeling real strongly one way or the other about anything tonight, so we'll see what comes later this week. But make sure you get your profile set up at betonline.ag with the promo code LOCKED ON to get 50% added onto your initial deposit. All right, so tonight is another La Piedra night, and he has been a lot better recently. In fact, if you take a look at June to now, just starting at June 1st, he has been phenomenal. His first start in June at St. Louis, he really turned things around for the better. In fact, in the 6 games since June began, he's got a fielding independent pitching of 2.76, or if you prefer just regular stuff, he's got an ERA of fantastically 2.13. That's more like it. And he's kind of ticked up his strikeout rate a little bit. Like, that's one thing that we've still been waiting for Luis Castillo to do. He's not pitching so much for the strikeouts like he has in the past, especially even during the time when he was struggling. It felt like every pitch he was trying to get strike three, even if it was the first pitch of the at bat. Now he's calmed down and he just makes better pitches and he does better in game situations. But the strikeout percentage has ticked up a bit. For the season, it's at 21%, but for these last 6 games, it's at 25.2%, getting up there. And the walk percentage below 10%, it's right at 9.9, so it's almost 10%, but still better. And you're not saying that he's getting super lucky. He's getting a little bit lucky, but not super lucky. The BABIP currently setting at 240, but I love what he has done. This is the Luis Castillo that we all expected to see out of the gate. His last start, even against the Padres, 6 1/3. He did allow 3 earned runs, but I think that was still indicative that we have our ace back on the mound. He's going to be going tonight against this Royals side. Hopefully he can shut them down just as well as Vladimir Gutierrez did. I know Carlos Santana had that really hard hit, but look, Carlos Santana is one of the better players in this game. You're going to look at his stats and be like, Jeff, what are you talking about? He's a really good hitter. He's got a great eye at the plate. He's always a dude that I have enjoyed watching and respected whenever he was coming up. That's a guy that you look at and you say, all right, pitcher's got to have his good stuff today. Hopefully Luis Castillo can do that. Now we look on the other side of the diamond. Going up against the Reds is a pitcher that I don't know much about. And when I see a pitcher like that facing the Reds, I immediately go to Baseball Savant to check him out. Look at the numbers. Let's see what we've got. The 4.99 ERA doesn't look great. So you see that and you're like, okay, well, maybe the Reds have a shot. His expected ERA, 6.01. They definitely have a shot. I know he's a lefty, and I know Mike Minor, for the most part, shut the Reds down last night. He did give up the 2 runs. He got the loss because when he left, those runners on base were charged to him when Suarez hit that bomb. However, that was still pretty much what you expect, Reds against lefties. Bubic is a lefty. We'll have to see exactly how they combat that because the numbers say that they should hit this guy and hit him hard. His expected slugging percentage allowed is .510, bottom 7% of the league. Average exit velocity above league average. He currently is allowing a 90.4 average exit velocity, and he only throws 3 pitches. He's got a 4-seamer, a changeup, and a curveball. And none of them are plus stuff. Now, he doesn't really give up hard contact with the curveball, but he still gives up plenty of contact. The one thing that I'll look for, and something that will tell me whether the Reds are going to hit this guy early or not, is the fact that he is able to force hitters to top the ball, roll over on the ball, just really bad contact on the topping. That's where it's kind of where he's made his outs this season. Otherwise, he's not really much of a ground ball pitcher. 47% is below average. That's kind of not where you want to be if you're not going to be a strikeout pitcher. You want to be a ground ball pitcher, but he is neither a strikeout pitcher nor is he a ground ball pitcher. The Reds, I'm going to say it. I know he's a lefty, but the Reds should hit this guy tonight. I'm looking for some runs from this lineup, and we'll see exactly what that turns into and where they are, because a 6th win in a row is in the balance. Could be awesome. We'll see exactly how that happens tonight. First pitch is at 8:10, another Central Time game. Looking forward to the outcome. And make sure you follow me on Twitter, and you can also follow the show on Twitter at Locked On Reds. That way you kind of get both sides of things. Plus, we'll also have reactions from you at the Locked On Reds line at 513-549-0159. Get those in, and we'll talk about them coming up later in the week on this podcast. Tomorrow, we will do some of those. We'll do some reactions, some questions, comments, whatever you've got from the Locked On Reds line or at Twitter. You can also, nope, I already said that. And we'll also preview what's coming up in the final game of the Reds and Royals series. But that'll do it for us here today. Thank you so much for watching and listening. Whatever app you're on, make sure you're following. And if you're watching here on YouTube, make sure you're subscribed. Now, go check out the Locked On MLB podcast, a league-wide look every single day from Paul Francis Sullivan. Please call him Sully. He has a wealth of knowledge. He's got a lot of knowledge of the league, present and past, and he imparts it to you each and every day. Check out the Locked On MLB podcast wherever you get your podcasts. But that'll do it for us. Thanks so much for watching and listening. I'll talk to each and every one of you tomorrow.